Dialog Contour is a pitch processing module designed to provide the ability to edit intonation and inflection in dialogue recordings. All speakers, even professional announcers, are occasionally prone to slight missteps. They may overemphasize words or syllables, or their pitch may unintentionally rise, making a statement sound like a question. And when spoken word recordings, like radio or TV voiceovers, podcasts, panel discussions, and the like, are edited for content and length, it's not uncommon for a sentence or phrase to end with the wrong inflection, clearly leading into something that's no longer there, that's been edited out, or to just not be delivered the way it would have been if the edited version was what the speaker had said originally. That's where Dialog Contour comes in. Just like variable pitch, you can draw in pitch shifts at various points in a dialogue recording to correct for any of the issues I just mentioned, or any other situations where the speaker's inflection or intonation needs to be massaged to sound more appropriate. But here, of course, the algorithm is designed to maintain the most natural vocal quality possible. Given the small pitch shifts that would typically be made for this purpose, the tweaks should usually be unnoticeable. Here's a simple example. MS, or mid-side processing, the technique which dates back to the early days of mastering for vinyl and remains a very popular and useful mastering tool, especially when dealing with problematic mixes. Let's say the two lines following the phrase mastering for vinyl were edited out of this voiceover. The upwards inflection of the last two words clearly leads into a follow-up comment, which would now be gone. The technique which dates back to the early days of mastering for vinyl. To make this sentence sound like it really is the end of the thought, I'll use Dialog Contour to pitch down those last two words, making it sound like the speaker meant to end there. In the Dialog Contour window, the main display shows a spectrogram of the selected audio, and a secondary display above that shows the more familiar waveform view, which can make it easier to locate a specific word or syllable. In the main display, there's a center pitch line, which represents the original pitch, 0 pitch change. To create pitch changes, you add nodes to this line by clicking in the desired spots. If you mean to add a node right at 0, but accidentally click elsewhere, a double click or an option click will snap that node to 0, and control click will remove it. Editing the pitch is pretty much like editing automation in most DAWs. Insert a couple of nodes, and then drag to the desired pitch. As you hold and drag a node, there's a readout of time, pitch change by percentage, and pitch change in semitones, or fractions of a semitone. 0.1 semitone would be 10 cents. This is very helpful in getting a sense of how much pitch change is typically needed for various kinds of edits. The smoothing control rounds off the pitch changes, if needed, for potentially more natural pitch transitions. For this phrase, I've pitched down the last two words very gradually to make the end of the phrase sound more final. Here's the original again, the technique which dates back to the early days of mastering for vinyl, and the Dialog Contoured version, the technique which dates back to the early days of mastering for vinyl. As you can hear, the sentence now sounds like the speaker is finished, instead of seeming to anticipate a follow-up comment which never comes. MS, or mid-side processing, the technique which dates back to the early days of mastering for vinyl. Once you get a sense of how much pitch change to apply for various changes in inflection and intonation, you can easily tweak words and phrases as needed, and then, of course, render the result to a new audio file.